Hello.
Welcome to your podcast.
Yeah, this is surreal.
Well done.
Very, very
Started
surreal.
a podcast.
We
Well
started
done,
a
bro.
podcast.
Well, you have.
Yeah, haven't
this
launched
is
an
yours.
episode. I've got 2 subscribers.
Yeah, introduce yourself. Introduce yourself to your family. Where's your
Oh yeah, my
podcast?
name is Des, and I have an aspiration to start a podcast. I want to call it Grow a Pair, and purely because I believe that in the world today, people need to grow a pair in order to get ahead. This is not a sexist thing or anything like that. It's just a statement of fact. It's got nothing to do with guys or girls. And so first podcast, Joel Kaplan, which is so cool.
Thank you for having me as a guest. That's brilliant.
It's absolute pleasure. You shortcutted this whole thing, and that's what I like about you, is I messaged you 2 days ago and said, hey, would you like to be on my podcast? I'm starting this thing in my bedroom. And you immediately were like, yes, I have a studio, come to Cape Town, we'll sort it out, we've got this amazing space. This seems to be a normal thing for you. This is how you operate.
Cool. Firstly, thanks for having me in your space. We're currently in the Moment offices, which is brilliant.
Yes.
So big thanks to Aaron Posthumus and the Moment team for allowing you to start your podcast in
It's
here. And it could
spectacular.
actually go anywhere.
Yes.
To answer your question in terms of who I am, if you look at society, you grow up in this schooling environment that teaches you that trying new things or doing something differently outside of conformity is wrong as such. And as I was growing up, I had the opportunity to work with an engineer, and he taught me the idea of problem solving, being a little bit creative, thinking out of the box, etc.
Yeah.
I think on my end, I like to pull triggers, make things happen. You reached out to me. I said, cool, let's go. Sent Aaron a voice note. I said, this is a story. Can Desmond kindly use the space? He said, cool. Just make sure there's a Moment logo in the background and a shout out on
It's
Instagram,
fantastic.
LinkedIn.
Well, there we go.
TikTok.
We got our first sponsor. So
Doesn't even know it yet, but thanks, Moment.
I mean,
for
this is
sponsoring
worth
it.
something. So it's at the end of the day, I'm grateful. That's
Amazing.
it's something to be said about making contacts. You and me met on TikTok of all places. I was sitting in bed, scrolling, pondering a business idea, and I saw you doing a live talking about starting businesses and having ideas.
I don't know if you've heard of the business guru in South Africa named Mike Sharman. He wrote a book called Brandalism, and he actually taught me the idea that your net worth is your network.
Right.
It's been something that's taken me a while to comprehend, but it is true. It's like, who can you pick up the phone to have that conversation, or at least be confident to create a network, i.e.
Yes.
you sending a message to say, cool, let's do this. Whether I was part of your ecosystem or not, it was just having that initiative to be able to actually make that person part of your network.
Yeah.
So I think, a lot goes for saying like it is a who you know world that we live in.
Yeah. I've heard at least many people talk about just taking that first step. So I think a lot of times I don't have that issue. I think maybe I take the first step a bit too quick sometimes, but that first step is that journey, that whatever else. You can't do it. You can sit and plan forever. In terms of entrepreneurship in the modern age, which we find ourselves in, where in 10 seconds time everything isn't relevant anymore. That sort of attack strategy, is that something you would say to people? Yes, this is the way to go. All right. So would you, when it comes to starting a business or whatever, like, are you more on the planning side or the execute side? We've heard many people that just say, take the first step, just do. Gary Vee pops to mind. He's just like, bang, he's sitting right here, right now. I can check his face. Like, just do it. You know, with that board on that street in New York.
I was thinking about that just now. If you like look at what Gary Vaynerchuk said, and Tony Robbins also says that like ideas mean nothing without execution.
Absolutely.
They actually say ideas mean shit without execution. And it is very true. A lot of the work that I've been doing recently in the space of AI and stuff, none of the ideas are necessarily new, but it's like, who's creating the solution, putting it out there and saying, let's try and let's go. And that's what we've done consistently. Me personally, over the past couple of years, is creating solutions to problems and then putting it out there and seeing how the market reacts to it. Where I do think we can get a little bit lost in product developments and builds and planning phases, where MVP, put it out, see how the market reacts, and take the next step.
You're looking like a little bit of a Scrum type methodology there with
For sure.
produce something short,
what you
check
saw
it,
just
test it,
now when I
go.
was like on the phone before this meeting now, like it was a 20-minute like quick team update where it was like, here are the projects, here are the execution tasks that need to be done, what is the expectation for the next call that we have, and what that does is everyone's got a clear expectation of what they need to do, and they also know like on the follow-up call their expectation is we need to review X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And I've always said to like the team and whatever projects I'm involved in is like, how do you choose the path of least resistance? You could also look at it from something called first principles, which is like what is most available to you to make something possible.
Yeah.
I prefer the statement path of least resistance. So as an example, the path of least resistance for us and the camera over there was to put a lens under it and just get going.
Yeah.
The path of least resistance to have the light working behind it was a cool paperclip setup, so that we could jippo it and not worry about the battery. It's not about shortcutting things. You can definitely come back to doing stitches on a bullet hole if you just put a plaster over a bullet wound. And yes, in times there's an importance for planning and proper like high-level strategy. But right now where I'm at, it's just executing.
Yeah. I'm sure with like the finances and stuff like that, you have to be thinking.
What do you mean?
Like, well, finance-wise, like with a business, you can shoot from the hip to a point, but at the end of the month, you have salaries and rent, and there's a nice little, I suppose, a balance there, which I think you've got that. And from what I've seen, at least, you hit a lot of it on TikTok.
Fuck, bro, not even a little bit. There's a misconception. Like, if I'm honest, like even for this podcast, like I wanted to, you shower and you get ready, but and you look half decent, and there's a social media like perception out there that like you are one thing, and you choreograph that reality for your audience.
Yeah.
You allow your audience to believe what they want, like what you want them to believe on social media.
Yes.
Where the reality of my life right now or the past month has been like 12 to 18 hour days, working into 1 in the morning, 2, 3 sometimes, waking up early, getting into the office, like rinse and repeat Monday to Sunday, so that we can deliver on projects that we've created, that we can innovate, build new things, etc. And then in terms of social media, people think I'm like swimming in a pool with lion's head in the background, or like wakeboarding for an entire
I enjoyed
weekend.
your cold plunge.
For sure.
In the freezer.
But that's just like little in-between things on like what's actually happening. So social media versus reality is actually a huge problem. But at the end of the day, you choreograph what you want your audience to perceive.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what drew me to you in the first place. And a lot of the people that I'm like talking about to come on here is they've choreographed a thing, they have a message, they're sticking it out there to an end, and it works. It attracts what your audience. So, like, I mean, my mom's not going to watch your content, but she's not your target audience.
Do I have a target audience? I don't know. So like on my side, there's a principle I learned recently called Sonder, which I actually love, and I've been punting this a lot lately. If you don't know what the word Sonder means, it's the idea that you need to realize people are going through the same shit that you are. Their life is as sophisticated, as intricate. They're experiencing life just like you are in their own relative capacities. No matter what their background is, they experience happiness, sadness, anger, etc. And with that in mind, it's like deploying empathy towards people, the way they are, the way they behave, whatever's going on, and realizing, they're experiencing these crazy layers of life. So for me, one of the more interesting things that I've actually been focusing on in terms of myself and then the people that I'm working with is the idea of, and I'm working with someone really awesome, I'll give her a shout out, her name is Shannon. She does something called Neuro Emotional Coaching, which is understanding where your neuro emotions are, i.e. your brain states.
Okay.
So if you
what's I mean, dumb it down for me here. I'm standard grade here. So what's a neuro emotion? So
are you like, the idea of neuro emotions, like what your brain chemistry is doing to your body and your emotions are doing to your brain. Right. I don't even understand this. Sure. She did this whole crazy thing to be able to like understand it. I said to her, cool, I'll buy a package from you, really understand it. But she's created this idea that besides what she's created, what she's taught me is like one small example is you can have a survival brain state an executive brain state and an
Yeah.
emotional brain state.
Yeah.
But more specifically, like executive emotional survival. And if you think of an elevator, you can't go from survival to executive without going through emotional. And you
Yes.
can't go from executive to survival without going through emotional as well. And for me, like understanding that in terms of like my environment that I'm in, even chatting to you, like, are you right now in executive brain state, survival, emotional?
Yeah.
And like right now, I think we're both in an executive space because we have to have a rational conversation
Yes.
for a podcast that
Yes.
you're producing and get everyone excited about the content. But then sometimes we're in survival where we haven't eaten, we haven't slept properly, we're not drinking water, we're not getting exercise, maybe there's financial problems, maybe there's additional family challenges, etc. And then you're in a survival space, you're making choices out of survival. I don't know how we started discussing your emotions, but it's become
great.
very
I love it.
important to me in terms of like how to just navigate the world, how to navigate people, how to navigate like the projects that I'm working on.
Yeah.
And it's been one of the most beneficial things I've ever embarked on.
I think that mental health thing. I think a lot of guys, you get. So I'm 6'1", beard, few tattoos, and manly man. But that sort of mental health thing, guys steer clear of it almost. They go like, no, it's fine. Just I have one emotion, and we'll just we'll push it down. And if anything's wrong, but going through hell, to say a lack of a better word. You've got to process that stuff, and you've got to get through, like you said, from that survival into the different phases. Otherwise, you're just not going to be able to operate. It's
for sure.
And I just did it. I told you earlier on a little bit of my story, but like the last year has been utter chaos. And I think if I just pushed it down, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I wouldn't have reached out to you.
When you shared that story, though, you were in an emotional brain state. I also identified that quite quickly.
Yes.
And I was like, let's shift on from this conversation because you're not sharing the story from a space of logic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Respectfully.
Yeah. No, it was just a bleh.
And that's cool. And as like friends and whatever, you need to be there just to listen. I didn't need to give you advice or anything like that. It was just more from a perspective like I identified you're in an emotional brain state at the moment. Let me give you some space and then I'll come back and we can start again. And no offense. It's like I also have things going on, and that's the idea of Sonda as well. It's like deploying that constantly, and it's not just the idea of knowing it, it's the idea of actually practicing it.
Yes.
And it becomes difficult. I actually want to get a tattoo that says C, but I'm not going to get a tattoo, but C. Survival, emotional, executive. Okay. Are you in a survival brain state, emotional, or executive? And I think this is one of the most important things you need to be conscious of as an individual. And again, thank you so much, Shannon, for teaching me this principle of neuro emotional understanding.
Cool. So back to social media, you're quite prolific. I see you across different platforms. You're doing different things and whatnot. What are the negatives? Everyone talks about the positives, the Bugatti and the whatever, and but what's the real side of it for you? Is there anything that you can share with us? That's sort of let's bring us back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah, so it's been a great journey. You do like the idea of being bullied online is true, for sure. I might have definitely, I'm not a perfect individual. I've definitely said or done things that I regret in hindsight. But yeah, people will have their opinions of you and what you're up to. But I was almost cancelled at one stage where I said, it's your fault if you experience anxiety, depression, stress, or any of these other ailments that
I remember the content,
And I spoke about this idea that I think that the drugs that are being prescribed, etc., are problematic. And I speak from experience with a lot of these different things. When I say experience, I mean like being the individual that was diagnosed with some sort of mental health issue, when the reality was you needed to go and exercise, you need to eat properly, you need to sleep, etc. But instead, the knee-jerk reaction from doctors is here's some tablets, and then here's some more tablets, and then change to these tablets, and we need to balance your chemistry and blah blah blah. And then if I understand people when they were coming at me, it was yes, I know that you have an issue, if you believe in the fact that you have it, and then people talk about it being hereditary and just something that you can't avoid, etc., which yes, I know even my family has got X, Y, and Z, but I'm cool, I'm not choosing to be a part of your reality. And it was when I meant it's your fault, it's how you react to these diagnoses. And it's your fault that you're choosing to take the medicine. It's your fault that you're choosing to feel a specific way. It's your fault if you're not choosing to exercise, etc. It's your fault with how you make like the choices. And it's a shit one to accept in life, but it's radical accountability.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that it's convenient for people to point fingers, blame others, label things, etc. And I'll get shut down for saying these things, and that's cool. But I think people don't want to take responsibility for where they're at, what's happening in their lives. And yes, I'm very aware of extreme circumstances. I'm very aware of people having circumstances that are just shit. They've been dealt a fucking shit hand in life. So be it.
Yep.
You like, no one on the other side of this video knows my story or what I've had to deal with.
Yeah.
And like, I haven't had to deal with much chaos, but I have had to deal with my own relative chaos, which I think at the time was the most fucking extreme thing to me.
Yes.
But someone else will be like, well, that's lame. I've once had like X, Y, and Z happen to me, and it's way worse than your story.
Cool. I spoke with a mentor of mine, older guy, and he said to me once that the hardest thing that someone's been through is the hardest thing that someone has been through. And if that is, having to worry about what pair of jeans they buy, because, at some fancy shop for $10,000, cool, that's maybe the hardest thing they've been through. And that for them is real. And then, other people, it's, well, how do we put food on the table? And that's the hardest thing. But for both of them, it's the hardest thing.
Challenge.
Billionaires have money problems. I have money problems. You have money problems. We all have money problems, but it's just a different section on the road, I suppose.
Like that statement of like the world's not fair, it is relatively true.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's what gives people a chance to. That's what, the people that pull themselves out of that. I love seeing that on different spaces. You see a friend that makes a business. I've got a friend of mine who bootstrapped a business, like had nothing, and now he's got, it's running. And it's great, and he's making a name for himself in an industry that's tough to break into, and rock and roll, But if he had just left it, yeah, cool. He'd just be sitting in his normal old job and doing whatever it was. He took a chance, and literally had to pull himself by the bootstraps out, and that's cool to see, I enjoy. I don't know. I love it. There we go. Oh yeah, cool. You got back problems, so we're gonna let you stay. I was actually sitting here myself going like, okay, time to stretch out a little bit. Okay, so tell me, here's my controversial statement or question for you. Are you trying to dissolve or disintegrate or totally destroy the education system in South Africa as we know it?
I always believed that I was trying to dissolve and disintegrate the education system, but not in a bad way. I was like, this needs to be reformed. The education system's trash. It needs to change. It's a long story. Teachers agree with it. Principals agree with it. Parents agree with it. The government agrees with it. No one's changing it. Threatening robotics and coding now since 2017. We're only seeing like soft rollouts happening in schools. And we're making a bit of progress, but at the end of the day, there's a legislation that dictates that math is a priority, languages are a priority, humanities are a priority, creative subjects are then a priority, and then technology at the bottom. So by definition of legislation, it's control, and unfortunately we can come with all the bells and whistles for new educational methodology with 3D printing, coding, electronics, and all the fun things that students can do, but fundamentally if they don't have enough time in the classroom to actually execute on it, and the legislation doesn't allow them to work outside of CAPS or IEB, how are we going to change the education system? Side note. 1 second.
Hey, load shedding. It's finished.
I don't know if you've seen, but the Western Cape Education Department launched a AI chatbot sponsored by Moment. How convenient, the sponsors of this show as well.
Yes.
And what that actually means is that anyone can use ChatGPT through WhatsApp, but it's being tailored for school students, which is brilliant. So they're using it for their school studies, career, understanding what Web3 is, understanding blockchain, understanding Suncash, which is how you can earn money from solar, which is a really cool initiative that Moment's also responsible for. So there's lots of cool things changing the education space. In terms of my personal engagement in the education space, I haven't lost a passion for it, but I've become extremely frustrated with the red tape around the change.
Yeah.
So I think on my end, I've kind of taken a bit of a step back to look over and be like, okay, cool, this is happening, that's happening, these companies are doing this, etc. It's very cool, but still keeping my finger on the pulse with an AI tool that the Western Cape has now just launched. And my immediate energy and focus now is enabling South Africa to have solar and earn money from solar.
Yes.
And this has been born out of Moment, born out of Aaron, born out of the Moment team.
Yeah.
And what
This
they've
is
done is
Suncash,
brilliant.
yeah?
Suncash.
Suncash,
Yeah,
okay,
Suncash
cool.
is essentially a way that people can invest in solar installations and earn a passive income from the electricity generated.
Oh, yeah?
It's a brilliant concept, and it's almost like a too good to be true. Suncash is going to people and saying, hey, we'll install solar for free, we'll charge you less than ESCOM rates for your electricity,
Yeah.
and then we're going to generate extra electricity, and whatever excess there is, it's being sold, and it's an absolutely brilliant model.
It's fantastic.
And when we present the power purchase agreements to landlords, they're very happy with the terms. They can buy back their solar installations if they want to.
Yeah.
And then there's also insurance that protects people. There's some really interesting investors. What Suncash and what Aaron has done has been absolutely brilliant.
So the terminology that you're using and the way you're talking about Suncash is very crypto-esque, or it sounds like it. Is this like, are you NFTing a solar panel and I can now buy it, or are
Brilliant
you...
question. Cool. We don't use the word NFT anymore.
Oh, it's a swear word. It's a swear word.
NFT
Okay.
is a swear word. It's
Okay.
a digital asset. It
Yeah.
represents like ownership in that solar installation. It's minted on the blockchain, which is completely immutable, as
Yes.
Aaron would say. It's like until the death of the universe. Moment is completely securing that smart contract,
Yeah.
and it demonstrates that you own that solar certificate.
Yes.
Side note, we're about to launch how you can get tax benefits from owning solar certificates. So
Nice.
really cool.
Everyone
like
wants a
steps in the
tax
right
benefit.
direction there. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, that's
And
cool.
so you
Yeah.
talk about like a crypto-esque like component to it. I do think that the entire Web3 space, like it was pervasive in terms of like NFTs and the art projects and everything that happened, and it's kind of turned a bit of a sour approach towards the
Yeah.
entire technology.
Yeah.
People forget that it's the only technology that's out there that can create a genuinely democratized society,
Yeah.
one that there's like fair and equitable decisions made in things. Transactions are transparent. It avoids
Yeah.
corruption. And we use these fancy words, but people are not actually realizing that the technology is so powerful.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's because it's the technical jargon's been too extreme. It's like you don't know what an SSL certificate is. You don't know what HTTPS is,
Yeah.
but it protects the website and it verifies it
Yes.
and encodes
Yeah.
it and does what it needs to do, or
Yeah.
encrypts it. I don't even know properly. And I'm convinced that in the Web3 space, the technical jargon is it's made it inaccessible.
Yes.
So on our WhatsApp channel with this decentralized technology, we're using WhatsApp to enable people to access Web3 tech, be able
Yeah.
to mint their own NFTs or their
Yeah.
own digital assets, publish their own digital assets. It's like changing a couple of words, but yet it makes it so much more accessible.
That's fantastic. I'm excited. Like this kind of thing. I mean, when Bitcoin jumped into the market, like in South Africa, it was one day we were buying coffee, and then the next day, my mate Cam and myself were chatting about this thing, and there was an
But
app,
you see,
and now you can buy Bitcoin.
The problem with
and-
Bitcoin is people look at it as like they go like, I'm going to invest in Bitcoin, my crypto portfolio. And I believe that it's been treated like a commodity, like baseball cards almost, or
Yes. Yeah.
Pokemon cards, where actually like this should be used to like trade value
Yeah.
for goods and services,
Yeah.
whether it be your school fees, your rent, etc. But instead we went and like hijacked the technology for I guess you could say selfish reasons.
Yeah, they get rich quick.
the
Investing in
crypto
Bitcoin
pumps,
is going up
yeah.
50% tomorrow.
Crypto pump and
Yeah,
dumps,
yeah.
like just all the trash that went around that.
Yeah.
So our intention right now is we can use WhatsApp to make Web3 and blockchain technology more accessible.
Fantastic.
And so far so good. We did a MVP soft launch a couple of weeks back. It worked nicely, good reception. We then followed up after that with another kind of soft launch MVP kind of idea to see how things are working. Super happy with the feedback on it. We actually have the Moment CEO Aaron taking over the bot technology tonight to kind
cool.
of like help me and nudge me in the right direction. But I genuinely think this is what's going to make Web3 more accessible, is that WhatsApp layer to it.
That's fantastic. I need to ask you because I spoke to you, the last time I spoke to you about this was 7-8 months ago. You were involved in a project, I don't know if you still are, and that's why I'm asking, those metal cards.
I've still got a business
cards.
that builds metal cards,
Yes.
for sure. I just
What is it
do
called?
much to it. It's called Clink One.
Clink One, that's it. Okay, I've seen a few others. I didn't want to say the wrong name.
Yeah, so the reason we started that business was a friend of mine and I kind of made a joke. We said, like, what would be the most challenging business to start to ensure that we could demonstrate trust and credibility?
Yeah.
And we had seen an Australian company making metal credit cards, and we're like, cool, let's do that. And we actually sold our first metal credit card before we even had the machine to do the metal credit cards. And we kind of wanted to see, could we get someone to buy it on TikTok without us having to actually like show our faces. So we made 1 or 2 videos, we got a sale, and then scrambled to make sure that order went out. It still went out 2-3 days later.
Fantastic.
I'm actually going to make sure we tag the person that bought that credit card from TikTok. I know exactly who she is.
Fantastic.
From KZN, I remember her business. She got
You remember her name?
Unfortunately, don't remember her name.
Okay, we'll tag it. Yeah,
I
we'll
know
tag
it's
it
Miss
somewhere.
Naidu, so I don't know you
there we
remember
go.
your first name. It might be Melissa Naidu, but I forget.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's great. I mean, like, I want to get. I mean, I've been threatening to buy one for a long time. I'm gonna get one. It's really.
We got
got
a friend discount code, except it doesn't give you a discount. It charges double.
Yeah. I've got that
Give me
same
one of
discount code. I give it to the trusted clients. No, that's fantastic, Joel. I want to say thank you so much. This is the first 30 minutes of something that I'm hoping will become bigger and better. You've taken a chance and helped me out so much. So I really want to say thank you.
Please don't mention it. Like, this is your journey. You reached out. This is your new space. Let's see at least 10, 20, 30 podcasts. Maybe this goes viral. Maybe it doesn't.
Who
maybe
knows?
it works. Maybe it doesn't. Who cares? It's like, and then just carry on.
Exactly.
So
exactly
thank you
that.
for reaching out. Thank you for coming to set up. Thank you for getting this going. We've been needing the help. Really appreciate your time, and grow a pair, build out your podcast, make it happen, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. Where can people find you on socials? What is a TikTok? What is your? Because there is another Joel Kaplan on TikTok. I saw him.
I know him. He knows me. We know
he looks
each
like
other.
A great guy. I don't know.
Joel Kaplan, fuck away. Joel Kaplan. Follow him
everywhere.
or follow me.
Fantastic.
You can choose.
No, that's cool. Awesome. Great stuff.
Well done, bro. That was actually really solid.
That was great.
Content on there.
I enjoyed.